Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Again, to another episode. Amazing guest today, Nadir Ali from Saudi Arabia, all expert in fintech and banking. He's been involved engaging with a lot of projects worldwide. Nadir, how are you today?
Thank you, Julio, for having me on here. Very well. It's an off day here, but very hot and
Yeah,
excited to be with you.
I'm very glad for us to have this conversation. Thank you for taking your time to talk with us in this episode. So, Nadir, for the audience to know you a bit more, how do you characterize who is Nadir Ali? I mean, how do you characterize yourself to other people?
See, okay, it's a good question to start with. Myself, I'm known in the industry as a fintech or a payment guy, right? And been in industry for over 2 decades now. Never started with fintech, you know, and but over the period of time, with different trends, different kind of opportunities, organizations, in fact, who went into that direction. I was lucky enough to be part of those, and hence in my journey started with the fintech. And it has been very rewarding, very exciting, very challenging, but I'll say it's an amazing roller coaster, and good thing is still going on.
Wonderful, wonderful. How did it all started for you? I mean, was it something that you wanted to do since you were a child? It was recent. How did you got involved really in fintech?
No, I'll see. I'll be very honest over here. I was never a fintech guy. I was in the positions, for last 10 years. I'm shadowing CEOs,
Right,
globally.
right,
That was not my background at all. I was a techie guy, computer sciences graduate, uh, and I started my journey with the telco. Uh, I'm from Pakistan, and basically, and the organization was Telenor. It was based out of Norway. It was a
right.
Norwegian, the big group. They were present in 17 countries.
Yeah, yeah,
I was with them, as a solution architect, and they in fact the organization itself saw the opportunity back in Pakistan, which is a big country, and where in fact 80 to 85% of the population was not even underbanked; it was unbanked, right? So they in fact thought to venture into fintech, and they created a team from the organization itself. I
right.
was lucky enough, to be part of that team to start with. I want to embark on this journey, which I never imagined, And till today, I mean, it's been, it was back in 2009
Right.
when it started, right? It's been 16 years almost. And I still take proud, while talking about this particular journey, where in fact we created something which in fact transformed the life of millions of people over there. This is how in fact the journey started, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, if I'm sure you know about M-Pesa in Kenya. So it was inspired by M-Pesa, and so the product, in fact, or the brand name was Easy Pesa back in Pakistan, which at that time was, Julio, the second largest mobile money deployment at
Yeah,
that time.
yeah.
So we built the product, ran the operations. I was, working from a purely at that time technology point of view, and then later, in fact, at a group level, moved into the product roles. Spent 6 years with them, amazing 6 years with them, and I always say it was a university after university. So amazing people to work with over there. Amazing caliber, uh, lovely collaboration. I mean, you created something which the sizable GDP of the country goes through that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, it was not a small thing. And then in fact we extrapolated that at a group level. We uh, we did that, and then based out of that, I got into connection with a couple of people, and it was a French company back in the days, which lately sold out completely. And they said, okay, we want you. We are working on this fintech vertical with us. Come and lead it. So this is how, in fact, my international journey out of Pakistan practically. because within Telenor, it was part of the organization itself. It was not myself solo, So I, get out of the country and came to Dubai in 2014, worked
Okay.
with them, did a lot of consultancy in Europe, on this fintech and mobile money verticals. And then, in fact, even from Dubai, there was a startup where my entrepreneurial journey started, So we created a product, we ran the operations of that. And that's how, in fact, I land into, the roles where I had to interact with the board, with the investors,
Yeah.
with the go-to-market plans, managing the big teams, and then rest is the history. From Dubai, in fact, I did, enabled, I think, 8 to 10 different markets from there, out of their platform. And in last 5 years, I land in Saudi Arabia again. It's a very amazing journey.
Yeah.
I started with not only one of the biggest, largest Islamic bank, but the largest Islamic bank over here, right? Asset under management are 200 billion, more than 200 billion dollars.
Yeah.
They are operating on a net profit of more than $4 billion. So then I associated with them and then created, what we have created here, how in fact banks can take a leap in this fintech era, where in fact, and how in fact you can modernize on top of your legacy platform.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we created something, and now in fact I'm advising different CEOs, MDs, organizations on fintech scalability, creating it, how in fact it can be internationalized, how in fact you can expand it. So this is, a brief of how in fact I started never as a fintech guy and ended up in doing what I'm doing now.
Amazing, amazing. How did you saw this transformation over the years? I mean, because fintech is not like very old. It's something that came over with the latest technology in the last, let's say, 5-6 years. How did you saw this actually transformation impacting banks, and how did you saw this transformation the way it was growing? I mean, you could have several arms,
Yeah.
right, from whatever technology was going, and to know what is the right place to go. Because, I mean, today there's like 1,000 arms coming from fintech, and sometimes it's even confusing. So to try to clarify, according to your expertise in this, how do you see, the light in fintech, for example, in the next 5-10 years?
It's an, again, interesting direction, but, let's take a step back before,
Yeah.
answering. And I'll put, what was a fintech originally, right? So originally, in fact, it was a digitization of a payment attributed
Yeah.
as a fintech, right? And if you look at a specifically payment journey, and like back in 90s, when in fact payment was only a mandate for the banks. As a bank, you cannot do it, right? So it was a commodity practically which bank was selling to the customers or to the consumers or the partners, right? From there, in fact, in late 90s, we get into an era where ATM started, and in fact, after
Yeah.
that credit card, the electronic money started, right? And I remember very vividly when even I graduated, I was very passionate, to go into data domain, because the data warehousing was a very unique or a new concept, like 2022, 3 years back. And we wanted to, get into that. And that, in fact, further, made the journey of a payment. Payment, get a little bit broader from being a commodity to be utilized, based on certain use cases, but reactively, not proactively. And from there, when in fact this modernization came in after 2010, and where the systems got modernized, a lot in fact focus was started given to be open APIs, where you can in fact start to create your courses, your system around your core systems. And now what we are seeing, it's not about just digitizing the payment. It's part of your lifestyle. So the actual transition, what has happened, it has happened from being a commodity to your lifestyle. Now if you talk about payments, lending, insurance, wealth, right? In fact, all these things are part of your non-financial use cases. And the whole focus of fintech is to enable how, in fact, based on the non-financial use cases, how it can activate the journey for the customers over there. So this is, as a background where how far payment has come now. We don't think of as a commodity, it's your day-to-day thinking, it's embedded in your lifestyle. Now, to answer your question, how in fact is going forward, maybe how banks are, you know, because you see, when the journey started maybe a decade back, or maybe more than a little bit, 12, 13 years ago, everybody, and the bigger debates were how banks are going to respond to that, what kind of challenges banks see, and if today still the debate is that like the challenger banks or the are going to eat up the legacy banks, or fintech is going to give a very big or tough time to the banks.
Yeah.
If you see with with all that evolution, what we are seeing now, the market has come to an understanding, and thankfully they have come to this understanding where they are saying, okay, it's not about rivalry anymore. We have to co-create something. We have to collaborate and give best of the ecosystem to the market. And this is the journey moving forward, where banks are making their rails, making their balance sheet available to the fintechs. And because of fintechs agility, speed, and the new use cases, they are enabling new things for the market. And down the lane, you will see, at least in Saudi market, if you look at that, all the big banks are collaborating big time with the fintechs. How it's happening, multiple ways of it's being practiced here. One is, if you are a big bank and you understand your challenges, you understand that because of your size, because of your legacy, platforms, your processes, maybe you cannot move fast in the market and enable what market wants. So you create a vertical within the bank itself to make yourself agile, right? So you do understand that because of the size, you cannot change a lot. So let me work around that and create something which will take me forward. Second is, you start to collaborate. You say, okay, I have a big, platform at the back end. I'll give you access and you leverage on that. So then banking as a service, fintech as a service, banking as a platform, these concepts, are very, very, popular now, and in fact, making their contribution into the market. And third is now, as I said, in fact, because of collaboration, now the focus is on how smartly you can co-create, rather than, just thinking in the old days, okay, either it's me or nobody. Okay, let's come together and try to give market what people want in the best possible. I think this is the direction now, and this is, how fintechs and banks are collaborating together and moving forward.
Yeah. Wonderful. How do you see most times is actually fintech going in the right direction according to your expertise? You think that could be a lot of changes made, or are we thinking back, still thinking what is the right strategy to move forward? Maybe there's a lot of people there thinking, what is my strategy? What is the best one within the next year? Because technology is moving so abruptly and so fast, and people don't have that vision saying, "Oh, in 2030, the technology is going to be like that." No, it can be totally different. I think this is a bit about the issue, right?
See, again, it's a very open question, and there are so many dimensions to that.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about like whether your strategy or a strategy of any fintech is right, it depends on so many factors, like what that particular fintechs want to do, right? What in fact kind of a value proposition it's want to produce in the market, what kind of segment it's going to serve in the market, right? So that strategy is around that. It's not one answer fitting all, but to confine it, first is the organization needs to be mindful, right, of why it's created, and I have seen it firsthand because I work on a lot of corporate strategies and the go-to-market strategies, right? With organizations, and the biggest challenge is, in your day-to-day execution, you are totally lost, and the companies forget why we got established, why we were there, right? What we were supposed to do. So I think it's very important to know that particular value proposition, why it exists, right? Because once you know that, then if your North Star is clear, then your people, your platforms, your processes, you try to align towards that. It may happen, if I'm sitting,
Yeah.
I was managing a budget up to 500 millions reals over a year, right? So it's very easy, for one of my colleagues say to come and say, this thing is going to be very, profitable in the next quarter. Let's do that. But the thing is, why I need to do that? Is it really resonating? Why I was there, as an
Yeah.
organization?
Yeah.
Is it really going to help me to move forward if I do that? Or it's just a distraction or a noise for me? Maybe it looks profitable, but doesn't, align with me, doesn't resonate with me. I really don't need to do that. So it's important to, to be mindful over there.
Yeah.
Second is, once you are there, then you need to, as I said, align your people, because it's not, only one function that you are clear on and rest will come automatically. No, it's a significant, it's a mindful effort. How in fact you align people with that, how the kind of culture you, how in fact you and inculcate or innovation in the organization, how in fact you make sure, like, if mistakes are happening, things are not moving forward, you get stuck, that leadership come handy, and in fact they help people moving forward. So all these things, starting with why you were there, and once you know why you were there, then what you are going to do about that. And once you know that, then how those things come into play and where you are going to play. I think if those four things are clear, then
Yeah.
you can move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that this kind of strategy is actually implemented in all countries, or some countries, just because of they don't have the proper structure or infrastructure to do it, they still lack on the actual technology in order to be able to do this?
No, see, it is very important, Julio, as you said. And I'll give you an example of Saudi Arabia, right? How, in
Yeah.
fact, if you look at globally, the market is on the exponential tangent, right? From every single point of view. And if you look at their the digitization at a government level, in my experience, at least I have been part of, 35 markets so far, where I go and, try to add value over there in certain capacity. I haven't seen the digitization at a government level so massive, which is here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's exploding further, right? And because of that, so like the government was so clear, like where their North Star was so clear, and then they tried to put everything in place, from a bank's point of view, merchant's point of view, fintech's point of view, consumer point of view, right? And they made that infrastructure available, which paved the way, for that kind of a transformation. And in previous question we touched about briefly on the innovation part. So one component, the technology really makes it easy for innovation to happen, right?
Yeah.
If the backend layer, your the infrastructure or your rails are not there, then that technology alone cannot do the job. So you are extremely right in saying, like, until unless that infrastructure creates a big component in making that transformation happen. And without that infrastructure, still it can happen, but then it takes time. Then it takes a lot of challenges, because then you have to go around that what's missing, and you try to, innovation happens in that period, but the pace or your journey gets slowed down.
Yeah.
Over the period. It really plays a vital role over there.
Amazing. So, during this stage that you saw all this transformation, like for example in Saudi Arabia, which is right now, I think, the biggest digital country, let's just say, in this specific area, because myself, I haven't seen nothing like that also anywhere else. Would you think that's the correct way to move forward, and that's the way other countries should do also?
It's a tough question, honestly.
It is. It is a tough question. No, as a matter of just as your opinion. That's that's what
yes, because other countries definitely should learn what Saudi has done, right?
Yeah.
What Kingdom has done over here. It's an extremely valuable case study. So, as an example, see, the small and medium SME segment enterprises. So as per Saudi vision of 2030, so they are, they contribute 20% in the economy. And they said we have to take this number from 20% to 35% in next 5 years. The size of SME is almost 1.4 million in
Yeah.
Kingdom. Right?
Yeah.
Out of those 1.4 million, I'm just trying to put up in perspective, how it's
Yeah,
how.
sure. Sure.
Yeah. Out of 1.4 million, almost 60 to 80,000 are medium to high, and then a couple of more thousand are extremely big corporates, right? We say
Right.
large corporates.
Right.
So you take 100,000 out of that, rest are SMEs, right? Now the kingdom specifically put their focus, okay, we have to uplift this segment because their contribution in the economy is significant, and
Yes.
down the lane it's going to be even more vital, right?
Yeah.
So in order to enable that, the whole country was cash oriented. The economy was, and in last only 6 years, what they have done, their KPI at a government level was to digitize payments up to 80% by 2030. In 2024, they have achieved it. Right? To do that, they in fact made that infrastructure available to the common merchant at a very acceptable terms. They rolled out their local scheme so that it can incentivize the SME segment here.
Yeah.
So now, is it a good thing? Other country can follow? Yes, for sure they can follow. But the flip side is, in fact, the kingdom really spent billions in order to enable that. So now, for example, in developing countries, they want to mimic what Saudi has done. In terms of objectives, in terms of the way it's executed, it's all good. But when it comes to spending on that, it's another story. Right. So yeah, if they have means to enable these kind of things which Saudi has done in their country, they should be doing that. I'm from Pakistan, as I said, and our SME, even I don't have the exact numbers, but maybe like more than 10 or 15 million over there, right? It's a country of 250 million people. So over there, it's very much needed. But the government, with all its constraints, can roll out in the same fashion which Saudi has done. I don't think so. They can take learning in bits and pieces, start deploying over there, so that in fact they step by step reach to the level where this country is here. But again, it's a journey, right? Saudi, their time, so they like in 6, 7, 8 years they reach to the stage, in fact, where they're very close to what they were supposed to do, for the overall country. The rest of the countries, can learn, and maybe based on their capacity, can move forward.
Absolutely. So I think exactly the same way, and we actually have similar background. I also came from telco. I was just in different countries. I was in Spain. I did some work in Germany. I was in Asia also, in some areas of Asia. And it's interesting how most people don't realize that how telco is actually so connected to fintech, because in the end, in the technology point of view and regarding the communication, one cannot live without the other. In the end, they are very well connected. And it's amazing how when you get involved into fintech, the amount of possibilities that you actually see between what technology can do, but how you can make technology even do more according how it's growing. Then of course many other ideas will still continue to go up. So I think, and this is a matter of just my opinion, a question to you is, do you actually think, for example, the payment structure as we have, for example, by cards, you think that will change in the future? Will be like in fingerprint or digital ID about your face? This kind of thing. Do you think this actual structure in the matter of payments will actually change, or will always continue the same structure in the future?
Yes, you are spot on again. Yeah, I'm really impressed with your insights on the payment ecosystem. It's coming, Julio, and it's already started. I'm part of I'm advising a company nowadays where in fact they are initiating the payments based on the facial recognition. Right?
Yeah.
Like for the moment, for example, you do a payment on your e-com as of today. In order to get authenticated, either I receive an OTP, which I need to validate against my card, it's me, right? Or in fact, maybe I get an in-app activation where say I have to approve the transaction and it goes through.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, see, whatever is happening now, the market has understood that the customer experience is the king, and all that, now the convenience part or the innovation part is around the majority is around the customer experience. So now, in fact, being a customer, why I really need to, input even phone on my face and transaction this authenticates against my credit card that it's me, and the transaction goes through, right? So we are going to make this product very soon. The POC is already going on, and down the lane, you see, even if from a CBDC point of view, when it's not only about speed, it's about how in fact you can give power to the user in the end, right? And and it's making that authentication more meaningful, more useful. So if I'm authenticated on certain medium and I'm on, say, blockchain, so in fact that feature can be further utilized in multiple use cases, right? So what you are saying, it's coming, and again, you see, it's a matter of how. I mean, if you look at WeChat, it's already there. The feature, your palm authentication, your biometric, is already there.
Yeah.
And that is going to be replicated. You see, one of the key consideration from innovation is the local problem on a global scale makes more relevance, when it comes to innovate something.
Yeah.
Right? There is a need over here. The fraud can be minimized, right? The user will be at more ease. It's more steps for the user to do the transaction, and it's already done. It's not like something will be here. And I think the companies are going in direction where they are trying to find out the local scenarios where in fact they can solve a problem and then they can replicate that problem globally, which helps them to go international at a much faster pace rather than confining to a environment where they just solved a problem and they remained there. So, but yes, it's there, already started. It's just a matter of time when everybody will start following that.
I think maybe we should combine forces because we actually have ATMs with facial recognition. So that's something there that we can cook after the program.
Yeah, it's coming, and even on the ATM. Sorry, I mean, because you mentioned ATM. So now this market is going for the co-located ATMs.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's going ATM as a service, where one provider, being a provider, because ATM practically is a dying business for the banks nowadays because of all the digitization, right?
Yeah.
Banks want to get rid of that. So now, if somebody comes into the picture and say, okay, I'll help you out, I'll take care of that part, and not only to bank A, I'll provide service to bank A, B, and C through a same software, and it's needed here, right? So, and then it will happen. Then that part of the particular platform can be integrated with something else using open banking and enable another use case over there. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, in the end, we just talked about how customer engaging regarding payments, how to make it easy, and how to combine newest technology for them to make their lives easier in the matter of processing the payments itself. How do you see the perspective from customers when we actually, for example, starting to implementing this on the roadmap and they actually, starting to see these changes? Because, for example, we've been seeing some laws adapting the removal of cash movement, which I agree, I think is something that has to be done. But of course, all countries need to be adapted in such way. Because if you, adapt this sudden law saying that we no longer move cash, it's going to be all digital, and the country actually is not ready yet to do that. And this is happening in some countries. what, in your perspective and as your opinion, how do you think would be the first step in starting, this adopting or this kind of transformation, step by step?
You see, again, I'm lucky enough, that I'm part of an ecosystem in a country where I have seen this happening in front of me.
Right.
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 So, as I said earlier, the Saudi economy was 100% cash based, right?
Yeah.
What they have achieved in last 9 years from 2017 onwards, 80% has been digitized. So like they didn't say like in 2017 or 18 that I'm going to take it out and it all will be digital. No, the government had a clear vision and they executed in the right way. So again, it's a case study, honestly, because what they have done step by step, enabling the market, doing the education in the market, creating awareness from a regulatory point of view in the market, right? Making sure that the infrastructure is ready when the new players are entering in the market. So they
Right.
have done all that. And systematically, they get users, they get merchants, they get, the partners, ecosystem players get tuned to that digitization part. For example, now they have reached the stage, even if they announce today, tomorrow there will be no cash in the market, so market is ready for that and they can do it overnight.
Right.
But still, they know if it's 100% done, it has a flip side as well. So they are, they are weighing their options, doing, step by step as they have reached to this stage. So yeah, so as I said, people should learn, what a country has done incredibly, and it's a living case study, and it's still, it's still being executed to the fullest.
Yeah.
80% has been achieved. Maybe in the coming year it will be 90%. Maybe then they cap it 90% and rest start, keep it happening in the market, because in the end it's needed as well. Until unless all your ecosystems within the country and your external parties are aligned to that. Because without ecosystem, it doesn't matter what kind of a brilliant product you have. And blockchain is a classic example. I mean, it's so mesmerizing in terms of technology and what it does. But it's capped because the supporting ecosystem is not there. In few areas, they are trying to explore certain use cases and they implement it. But
Yeah.
since it's absent at a global scale, so they cannot do much.
Absolutely. I mean, and during all these stages that you've been convening, inside payments, as and according to your experience, what was for you the most insightful from your side that you have done within this area of work, and how hard it was to be implemented? Just for people to have an idea what is the background, in the back about the real work, and for people to have a better understanding what is, out there
Yeah.
and what was done. Yeah.
If you allow, I'll cover in like multifolds,
Yeah.
because idea, when we talk about, it's not only an idea, or it's not only about a product or a piece of technology which enables that, right? So in order to make innovation, or in order to have it happen, right? So there are different components which comes together. One is your idea part. Second is the contextualization of that idea. I may have a fantastic idea, but may not be relevant for the market, right? And maybe I have a fantastic idea which is relevant to the market, should have happened, but I don't have a courage to do that.
Right.
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 So when we talk about idea, it's the idea plus the contextualization plus
Yeah.
your courage to really do it. And I was again, lucky enough, I'll put this way, that the kind of people I have worked with in my career to up the ladder, they, step by step, up in the journey, they enabled me for that, right? And I'll give you an example. So when I was, the way I moved to Saudi Arabia, it's an interesting, story.
Yeah.
I was fully settled over there, right? I was working as the chief operating officer with a
Right.
company that was in 6 countries, based out of Singapore, right? And we were doing great. They were having 5 revenue lines. I was managing a team of 100 people at that time, right? And so no pains. Let me put this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was enjoying the role. I was adding value over there, and we were expanding. And uh, then I met, the CEO of the largest bank here in Kingdom, face to face. And he said, "I'm putting up this value proposition, and I want you to join." Right. And the proposition was that they were trying to create 6 or 7 companies within a single company. So when I say within a single company means you pick up any one revenue line. So there
Yeah.
were 7, 8 established competition in the market was there for every single line. So I mean, on paper it was very very tough, but look at the ambition or the courage of that person said, okay, like I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
It's needed in the market, and then he assembled the right team to do that. Right. So the biggest challenge in that, because you asked that, first of all, was to clarify like what needs to be done, because in high-paced environments or hyper-growth environments, clarity is very very essential. I mean, you get lost like this, and when you work at that scale, you need to make maybe dozens or hundreds of decisions every single day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And those decisions, I mean, it doesn't happen. I mean, if you are not, you have been through those environments, or you know what it takes, to take this forward. And then you do that while, doing your prioritization ruthlessly. And in order to do that, you have to be very engaged with it, right? So the toughest part was in that particular organization to clarify, even to the main leadership, what needs to be done. I was working as the chief of strategy over there. So onus was on me, right? I have to clear out, like the company wants to do B2C, company wants to do B2B, company wants to go international, company wants to go into open banking. And all this can happen because you don't have unlimited resources. Your resources are capped, your capability is capped, but you want to do all that. So maybe your M&A is one of, another window which is open for you. The JV is another window which is open for you. All this has to come together. And that was luckily my role. I really enjoyed that part, right? It was a really high pressure environment. I worked with them for 3 years, created the strategy, executed it to the fullest. Success story is a history now, right? But the journey was incredible. So first thing is, to make that clear, and then you start executing it. Right? So clarity, I was saying, becomes very essential when you are part of your high-performing environments, because you can get lost very easily in translation. People really don't come along what you want to do. Maybe that person wants to operate here, but rest of the team is here. Then how you make sure that they are up to that level where they execute that vision,
Yeah.
But it was, worth it. And we can go, more in that, because apart from the clarity, then the leadership job is, I myself, I never thought over there that, okay, because of my role that I'm working as a hero over there, it doesn't work this way. Because all the time people need me, because the equation is so complex that you are needed by everybody. So you put up your sleeve and say, yes, I'm here to help, right? Let me know what I can say, what I can contribute. So my job, apart from, to create that equation, was to enable people over there to bring up to the level where they start, believing in the idea and execute.
Exactly. Yeah. I think within this, for people to understand, there's a huge multitude of things that even when you make a decision, sometimes you have to change within the transformation. That decision maybe is 3, 4, 5, or 6 times because it's not properly adequate as we thought it could be from the first moment that we did the execution. So that's that top 2, which many people don't understand, that there's a lot of work on that background. And of course, people knowledge have to be, as you very well said, have to be equalized on the same balance. Because if you have the technology like 600% and the knowledge of people is 400%, they won't be able not even to understand the technology, where it's going and how it's working. So having education on all teams internally when working with technology is fundamental. And I learned a lot from that, from my past experience also, which that creates a lot of gaps. And then you see them on the timeline because you are going on an integration. The integration is supposed to have a timeline. Then you see what kind of gap do we have? Is it a technological gap? Is it an adaptation gap? Or is it knowledge gap? And then when you find out there is a knowledge gap, then you know that you need to train people for training. So since then, my advice is always equal. I think don't have a step back besides of that. Just continue to move forward the same strategy, but have a bilateral plan of having training at the same time to the teams. And this way you will come to a point that both lines are co-aligned for your go and reach your roadmap. I mean, I think that's fundamental for every company to understand that having teams or having, in my experience in some companies, starting to hiring over team. I mean, let's hire, whatever, 100, 200, 300, 1,000. It doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work, yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Just to add up what you just said, Julio, being yourself my boss, you say, I want to do that. And I can come up with you, say, I need 50 people to do that. You say, okay, take 50 people. Then what? Then you are capped because you never, you thought, okay, I'll get away with that. Okay, I'll put up a number which cannot be met. But exactly. I have been to places where I have seen it in front of me.
Yeah.
The people come, they try to escape under the number of people, and the CEO said, okay, I'll give you these people, no execute. And then you don't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, my first question when that usually happens, I just say, how do you come up with that number? You come up with a number. How did you got there? I mean, why is it this number? Because when it comes to a number, I already know that the strategy needs to be co-aligned again. Because
100%.
The main point is you can have 1,000 people, 2,000. If you have one person that has 100% same knowledge of the technology, that one person will do more than probably the 1,000. It's not proportional, of course. I mean, it's a way of saying. But what I mean is knowledge is the most important inside teams. Knowledge, work, and for the teams to be co-aligned with the same roadmap and vision to the company. Because the company can have a vision, can have a roadmap, can be implemented. You can have 100 meetings, how the roadmap should be implemented. But if you don't have the proper knowledge on the teams to add to that roadmap, you become to that square zero, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Exactly, it's the case.
Yeah. And do you when you encounter this type of strategy, what kind of advices or re-strategy have you done according to your own opinion and knowledge?
See, re-strategy again. I was, even if you didn't had asked the question, so I would have said this. There is nothing wrong, in improvising your strategy.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong, in for the time being. In fact, take a different route to reach where you have to reach, right? So, and it's all part of, always part of the game, that because your strategy is always your living document. Yeah. The job is, it in fact keeps you intact where you are going. But in fact, during that journey, what needs to be done, and if you can take a different route in order to reach where you have to reach, it allows you to do that. And in that case, it can be updated. It has to be updated. It's not, written on stone, which cannot be changed.
Yeah.
It was always a living document, but the job is, to take decisions, to move forward, considering that direction. And over the run, if you have to change things, let's change things.
Yeah.
Let's collaborate. Let's think together. Maybe, earlier things cannot be well thought of. Maybe, it was extremely well thought of, but the competition changed, regulatory direction changed.
Yeah.
In the market, you have to improvise. In fact, of being aggressive, you have to be defensive now on the strategy. So let's change it. And there is nothing wrong with it, So people think, no, my strategy is this, and I will stick to that. I'll give you an example. When we created on the B2C side, our yearly target to make 1.2 million customers on the platform, on that digital one, over here in Saudi. And we achieved that in 4 months. So like, if I achieved that, so then I can sit for the rest of the months because my target is done, right? No, because in fact, the market was more ready than we anticipated. And in fact, based on the value proposition which we gave, the people really jumped on. So if jump on, then let's change the target. Let's, maybe let's change the roadmap to, because we know like what people want, because before the launch, we didn't know. So that target got changed from 1.2 to 2.2 for the whole year.
Yeah.
In 8 months, we hit 2.2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it got to 3.5. So this is, how you change or how you improvise over the run.
Yeah. And one thing that you just said, I really admire that, because in the end, there's a lot of good people out there with deep knowledge, a lot of experience, very professional, but it's missing one thing: not being afraid of committing.
Yeah.
And you just said yourself, it's important. Why should you be afraid of committing? Why shouldn't the thing should be changed? Just because it's like that, it still can be changed. Because things have to change according to the generations, according to regulations, as you very well said. Laws can change, country can change. So you need to adapt, and there's nothing wrong with that. And for people to understand, committing is experience. You won't know the result if you don't commit. I always say, a motto that I have myself. I usually say, when you get on the rain, you need to get wet, because if you don't get wet, you don't know what's the feelings like. It's like we need to commit to a goal for 2040, right? So you need to commit on that line. Will there be a lot of problems? Thousands. Will there be a lot of stucks? Thousands. Well, we're still committing, of course, because we want to get to that 2040, and we have a lot of things to go through, and we're going to learn across the value and across the knowledge and across all the timelines we have to jump. Because if you don't have that, moving that step forward and committing yourself to that challenge, you won't have that experience ever. And that is not something for people to understand that you get taught. No one can teach you that.
Exactly. I'll just add one thing over here on the same lines. While doing so, I mean, and in high scalability environments or hyper growth environment, in a leadership position, my job is not to get all the answers, at least to know all the answers, And people don't know the power of vulnerability. If I don't know anything, and I have seen it, I have been part of discussions in the boardroom where CEO says, "I really don't know what to be done, and I need your support," and then the magic happens. That because you were so courageous to say, "Okay, you don't know and you need help," and the whole team comes together, and then they find a way out for you.
Exactly. And during that, you also became more experienced to learn that there's nothing to be afraid of. Let's just commit. That's the way to go. Because people, I said, designing a program, then you sit on the meeting board and you find that on 10 people, just one is willing to commit and the others are all afraid. No, because this can happen, that can happen. Of course, many things can happen. That's not the whole deal. I mean, we need to commit to know where it's going. And if they need fixes, we improvise and overcome. That's the way.
That's the way.
I would say that's the most significant way how to adapt in modern times. And people who are able to do this will prevail in the future. People can believe me or not. Yourself, I'm right. This is the reality.
Because they say your working prototype with dozens issues is better than having a perfect product.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and that's the way to move forward. Improvise. You need to improvise all the time. I mean, in technology. Tell me one thing in technology that you don't need to improvise every day. If someone says, No, I never improvise. Then I'm not sure what you're doing inside technology because, I mean, if you have high scale programs in technology, you constantly improvise, sometimes even every 2 hours, sometimes even the whole day, sometimes twice or 4 times a day, because it constantly changes and you won't know. For example, there's a patch of coding. You put a patch of coding on one server, it came a result. So you have the exact copy on another server, and the other server gave a different result. Why it giving a different result? Let's find out. But you need to get into that in order to move that step forward. And that's the most significant part that I thought, especially on fintech. The companies that were always willing, no matter what, to move forward and improvise, they are the ones that are actually moving forward, in this roadmap, and the most significant now on the market. The ones who were not on that dimension, of course, now they see themselves, redeemed back because they were afraid of committing. I mean, don't be afraid of committing. This is like entrepreneurship.
It
You have
is.
an idea, you have a design, and you have a program or you have a project. You need to commit, because if you don't commit, you don't know if the process is going to fail or the process is going to have to change, or you need to do changes in order to make it a success. But you need to commit. If you don't commit, you always only have an idea. With that, you don't do anything. That's always my advice. So just as a matter of focus of for people out there, never be afraid of committing. It's what it is. Sometimes people just point the finger. Well, you can point the finger, but what have you done yourself just besides pointing the finger? Because in technology, the ones that actually get wet, they are the ones who presenting results, they are the ones who helping humanity. Because
Yeah.
people don't realize this. You are helping maybe hundreds of millions of people which start in fintech with the ideas and the concept and the technology that's being, devoted out there across country, because that's making life easier for people. But how to get to there? Well, you obviously you need to get wet a lot of times. That's what people don't realize. Not just pointing the finger and saying, "Oh, there's a problem. There's this." And of course, But the point is to get to there all the time. So I really congratulate you on this, and wish you always the best of success all in your journey. And I wish there were more people like you in fintech and with your mindset. That's for sure.
Thank you, Julio. Means a lot, and this is what I have, learned over the period of time, with experience with my mentors, right? It's you summarized it already. I'll just say it. I just echo you. It's just a matter of it's the courage which matters. To move
Yeah,
forward, and full stop.
yeah,
You may fail 100 times, which is fine, but if still you can move forward, just move forward.
yeah, yeah. And to make it even more accurate, don't take it as a failure.
It
Nothing
is
is a
never a
failure.
failure. It's
Take
never
it
a
as experience,
yes.
extra experience, as a roadmap that that one, it didn't go to where you wanted to reach. So you need to find another one, and you continue to find another one until you get to that goal that you want to reach. I mean, that's life's journey in reality. Of course, in virtual world, people can say thousands of things, but in true reality, this is the true world, and this is how it works. No one has the true concept of saying, "Oh, this is going to be exactly like this." It can be, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be on the first stage.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to be 100 stages or 200. You'll get there. What's the trick? The trick is perseverance. Don't give up, and always get the road and the milestone on your track, and always not be afraid of committing. All the milestones that you've done that didn't got you where you are, take it as experience, knowledge, and ways that you already know that they're not going to take you where you want to go. That's briefly how I advise people when they're currently challenging, especially in technology, because there's a lot of so many things right now. I mean, now is IoT with fintech, AI. I mean, there's so many technologies that you can connect with themselves. and becomes more and more and more encompassed. So this is my advice all the time. Never be afraid of committing, and take one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Nadir, how do you see yourself within the next 5 years? Do you see yourself doing exactly the same? You're going to change something? You're going to put yourself efforts in many of the things? How do you see yourself?
No, I'll for sure not the same. Whatever it will be, one thing I'm certain of, it will not be the same. Right? So it will evolve for better, and you will see, inshallah, in the coming years,
Of
if
course.
things goes as per the plan. So, so we'll create something, not for the market but for the people as well.
Yeah,
So there are a couple of things in plan. I hope they get executed well so far. What I have done, in my career.
yeah.
Uh, and if they, really gets executed well, so at least the value will be created. But on a high level, I will be, associated with the payments and the fintech. So
Right,
yeah, the things
right.
will be changing in the same direction. It will be for the better. The scale will be different. Uh, and it will be more, just to pay back to the society uh, in that fashion. The kind of creation which I'm, working on, it will be my, my way of saying thank you, to all those people, to all those enablers. Because of that, I have been here. So thank you, and I could have contributed. So this is from my. I hope so. It happen.
Amazing. So I just have my last two referrals. So firstly, I want to take to shout out to a lot of people that's sending a lot of comments. If you can, just go through LinkedIn. There's a lot of comments in there. I try to respond while we were talking at the same time. So thank you all for being engaged in our episode. We really deeply appreciate you. And now to Nadir. So during all your experience in all stages, just as a resume part, what advice do you give to an entrepreneur or someone in fintech market? What advice you give the person just came in, like beginning his fintech strategy or career? What advice you give to this person, he or she? And to finalize, what will be your power message today? As I always ask all my guests to say a power message before we finish.
Okay. See, my advice and the power message would be on the lines, because what's happening now around us, right? A lot of people, we hear about, like, the X drop out of the university and he got, so much successful, in terms of name, in terms of wealth, in terms of value creation. It can be anything, right? But the person got so famous, and we really get inspired by, say, okay, I have to get into entrepreneurship. I have to do something over there. But the missing bit is, which I learned over the period of time, is, yeah, one should definitely do that. Sooner the better. Fail fast, right? I
Yeah,
mean, if you fail many times, do it, right? Don't wait. It's your game. Nobody is going to judge you. No, people will always judge you, but nobody can tell you, what to do, what not to do. Take the risk, do it. But at the same point in time, try to get as much knowledge as you can, being among the smart people, because this will help you go very fast. This will help to reach where you want to reach. Other than that, for example, without having that in my pocket, if I try to, yeah, you may be lucky enough, to get it done what you want to do, but the odds are different.
and what you be your power message today?
Just be yourself, stay authentic. People is full of, a lot of people. So people may mimic, what I do, but people cannot be what I am. But stay
Yeah,
authentic and do what you want.
exactly, exactly. So with all that, Nadir, it was really a wonderful 1 hour conversation that we had. It passed just very fast.
Likewise,
I
yeah.
really enjoyed it, honestly. It was very insightful. I hope it was very insightful for everyone that was watching us and will help people to better have an understanding regarding fintech. Again, big shout out to everyone that was watching and sending comments. Me and Nadir will go through all the comments just after the episode. And Nadir, big congratulations to you. Always, you know, don't give up ever. Continue to do what you're doing and the way you're doing, please. I mean, it's really needed to have people with this mindset in the market. So
Thank you,
I
Julio.
really congratulate you on this, and keep doing what you're doing and never give up. For sure, you always will have a support from me. That's I can guarantee.
Means a lot. Means a lot, and likewise, it was pleasure, to sharing, this 1 hour with you. And I hope I was able to, add any kind of value, for the people, who were there. And
Absolutely.
inshallah, I will continue doing that.
Absolutely. So, with all that, Nadir, it was really a pleasure. Thank you so much for having this conversation today. Wishing you all the best. Congratulations again to you, your team, and the company where you work, and all your senior people that work with you. All my hello and congrats to all of them. And to all our guests. So thank you all for watching. Don't miss up our next episode. Hope you have enjoyed this episode, and thank you again. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Nadir.
you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Julio. See ya.